Why would you go through so much time to build a relationship, form that bond with the customer, and never know their KPIs, never know their goals? So all you do is lose them in a month's time. All that work down the drain. Not anymore. In this video, we're going to show you how to become a client retention master. Stay tuned. Hey there, my friends. Dan Deegan here, the founder of High Performance Logistics Sales and Bridger Sales System. Two companies together helping 10,000 sales reps generate over $1 million GP in under 12 months. That's the mission. And today, I wanted to talk to you about client retention. And before we get into that, I have a question for you. What is client retention? And you're probably saying, Dan, I know exactly what client retention is. But here's the thing. I see client retention as the continual mission to help clients achieve their goals. And so what does that mean? That means if we're looking to help clients achieve their goals, we have a few things we need to ask ourselves. So here's a few questions for you to start your client retention journey. Question number one that you want to ask: what's their goal for the next quarter? Question number two: what's their big corporate goals for the next year? Question number three: what's your contacts or personal or team goals for their department in the next quarter, half year, or year? If you can't answer those right now, you are risking not making the right decisions to help your customers achieve their goals. See, here's how goal setting works, right? If you have no idea where you're going, any road will get you there. But if a client has an idea of where they're going and you don't understand where that road is or where that destination is, then when you're driving and making decisions as to where to turn, you're most likely making the wrong decisions. So here's the deal. If you can answer one, two, or even three of these questions, you're on a great path. If you can't, your next thing you should be doing right now is pausing this video and going back and scheduling a meeting with each of your customers and figuring this out. Once you do that, here's another set of questions that I'd really like you to ask yourself. Number one, how do I fit into the mix? Number two, how can I add or take away from this mission to help them get there faster? Number three, how would it fit into my daily life and business strategy? And of course, the big one that we all have to pay attention to is number four, is it feasible? We've created a special list of Q&A that you can use right now to talk to your customers. Down in the show notes right here, you'll have a link to dandeegan.com's resource hub. If you go there, sign up, you get all these resources for free from pretty much any of my videos. So while you're down there, make sure to subscribe and like and follow me so I'll get more videos if you're liking this video so far. So here's the thing. If you don't feel you have a client retention program in place, then let's teach you how to build one, and let's do that right now. So a client retention program consists of a few things, and here's the first three things that I'd really like you to look at when it comes to a client retention program. Number one, I lock down my calendar at a minimum 4 calls a year to understand that their goals, if any of the directions have changed. Did something that was really important in Q1 become not so important in Q2, and so on and so forth? This is critical in the development of a long-term client retention program. We both know our customers' goals, what they need to do, can pivot from Q1 to Q2 to Q3 to Q4. It'll depend on sales. It'll depend on, production. It'll depend on raw material. I mean, there's so many variables in today's market. So the first one is to block out a minimum of 4 times a year. I usually do this minimum with every customer every quarter, regardless of how much they ship, even if it's 2 pallets a month. Every quarter, I block out time to spend with them. Number two, these calls are scheduled to discuss their goals, pivots, and how I can help. So what in essence number two means is it's not just, hey, do you have a meeting, and then jump on the meeting and hit them with this information. It's scheduling it. Hey, in 90 days, what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk to you again about your goals, where we fit in the picture, how we've been able to do all this, how we've been able to blah, blah, and lay that all on the line. I mean, even if it's half a page, just lay it all on the line and say, this is what I'm looking at. This is the intention of this call. So they're very intent focused. It's not talking about the weather, sports, or anything. It's diving right into what do we do right, what do we do wrong, and how can we improve in this next quarter? Are we still in line with our decision making that fits the alignment of your goals? This is super important. And number 3, of course, is check in with these every quarter. Again, a minimum of 4 times a year max. I would even say on your heavier clients, I would probably go 6 to 8 times a year, like kind of check in at the beginning, middle, and end of every quarter, or at least in the middle and end of every quarter. And that way you're really staying on top of what it is they need and how you can consistently be of assistance for them to achieve that goal. So that's your 3 questions that you're going to ask. During these meetings, there's 3 specific questions you want to ask regardless of what the meeting's about. So if it's a meeting about meeting their KPIs, if it's a meeting about some other service failure, if it's a meeting about new business, there's a series of questions that has been the godsend for me in my almost 30 years of selling that's really helped me tune in to where my prospect or customer is really thinking. So number 1 is, what are we doing right? Number 2 is, what are we doing wrong? And number 3 is, what can we improve on? By asking these 3 questions, you actually set up a series of thought processes in your customer's mind. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not a Jedi mind trick.
Let me see your identification.
You don't need to see his identification.
We don't need to see his identification.
But it is a really big part of psychology. You see, when they say, yes, you're doing everything right. Yes, you have no problems. Yes, there's no issues that I have to worry about. You're setting up that yes. So now you're setting your prospect or customer up for another yes. Is that a reference letter? Can I get a reference letter from you? Yes. Maybe can I get more business? Yes. So you see, it's a psychological setup for the next phase of your business. Also, if you're not doing everything right, this gives you a great opportunity to address the situation, and it might not have become something as big as the customer wants to talk to you about. Think of this scenario. So there's an issue with you replying back, your team replying back, and some of your customers' teammates feel that you could reply back faster. It's not necessarily something that requires an actual phone call and block time out of your customer's day to get that information, but the next time they speak to you, they're going to say, oh, by the way, Leanne and Susan or Jim and Frank or whoever in the customer service team has spoken to me about, is it possible to get emails returned faster? So by you saying, what can we improve on, you're giving them that open door to share that with you. Now, if you don't do something like this, what happens is it's almost that gunny sack mentality where all of a sudden this builds on this, and then this stacks, and then this stacks, and this stacks. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you're 10 minutes late for a delivery, and that is the straw that broke the camel's back, and then everything goes haywire, right? And a lot of times as sales reps, we look and we go, well, I never knew all these problems. Why didn't you tell me? And it's because all of these things don't add up to necessarily making a phone call or scheduling time to make a phone call. However, they're hugely important in the overall lifespan of your customer. So as you can see, this flows in the usual 2 ways, right? 1, you're a rock star for your customer, or 2, you got another creative project to fix a part of your solution that you're offering the customer. So either way, there's huge benefits to it. If there's something you got to work on, now you can get to work on that, because if one customer is experiencing, more are probably experiencing it and just not telling you about it. Or the flip side, of course, which is where we all want to be, is that we're rock stars, everything's golden. Now, how do we move up a level and get more business from this customer? Because if you trust us this well and you love what we're doing, there's no reason why we shouldn't get more business, right? So both of these scenarios actually work out in your favor. All right, so now we're moving into phase 2 of the conversation. Now that you got the primer out of the way and you've set up the yes, or what it is you need to correct, how you need to improve that for customers, or you know what, guys, we're fully on track. You're meeting all the points that we need you to meet as our logistics supplier. Keep it going. So when you're sending the invites, you have to say, okay, I'd like to discuss goals for your department for the year, how you're going to break them down into each quarter. If you orders, what do you want to see at the end of this quarter? What do you want to see at the end of 30, 60, 90 days? Whatever you feel is an appropriate timeline where your customer actually has goals. Now, here's the thing. Some companies don't necessarily have the goals past Q1, right? Past the next quarter, because the market's been so volatile and maybe they're having trouble finding raw material, whatever the case may be. So you have to really focus on that point, right? Set that timeline out and then start with the end in mind. If it's to get 4% reduction in freight rates in 4 quarters, that's a percentage a quarter. How are you going to help facilitate that if that's something you can even facilitate, as an example? We want to make sure that your client understands exactly where you want to go and what the intention of the call is. This is one of the most important things for any meeting setup is what's the intention? What do I need to give the people that I'm meeting with? What information do I need to give? What tools, what strategy, what framework? How can I help them? Meaning, can I give them a list of all the loads we've done, my on-time performance reports, maybe how we've reduced rates? Like all of these things go into this meeting. And if you've never done it before, setting it up is going to be one of that longer period. So like I said, you go in and you ask your customer for all of this material. And then your question is there anything that we have that can help you identify what I'm looking for? So again, is that like a freight report or whatever, right? Now what we do is we stop and we say, okay, you've got everything that we need. You understand exactly what I need for this conversation. So now we move into part 2 of this. So here's 3 things that we're going to look at when it comes to getting on the phone. So there's 3 levels that we want to look at inside of this. The first level is, did they bring all their goals, all their processes to the table? Number 2 is, what do they feel they need to do or where they need to be for things to change? So that's how we talk through it. So it's not as simple as, I need a rate reduction. Okay, so if you're looking for 2% off in this quarter, for example, what are we going to do to get trucks in and out faster, right? Can I reduce rates by 2% if I get them in and out in 30 minutes instead of an hour and a half? Quite possibly your people. So this is where, when I say they need to bring the information to the table, but you need to be part of the conversation. So what needs to be changed? What needs to be altered as question or phase number 2 in step 2, right? And then obviously step 3 in this would be, how do we fit into the picture? How do you, as the logistics professional, fit into the picture of their overall goal attainment? Some of it, if it's more of processes in the warehouse, if they won't let you in on it, then you have no ability to control that. If it's a different shipping process, you have the ability to control that through, Q&A, doing your research, figuring it out. And I'll give you a perfect example. We had a customer that was doing a lot of B trains across Canada, and they were about $15,000 a B train. And what we figured out with the 110,000 pounds that they were doing, we were actually cheaper to move this into a rail container. So what we did is we sat down with the customer, we understood their needs, we actually went to the rail lines, we built an entire framework of how we map out the trailer, put it into their OS&D, put it into their safety departments, got it approved. We then went to the customer's office, built the frames, built everything for 10 transfers to happen like this. What we did is we went from literally $15,000, dropped it to $10,000. We were doing a transfer twice a month, so saving them $10,000 a month, $120,000 a year, and all because we switched to rail. And here's the bonus part. I doubled my profit because we started shipping 2 orders out instead of 1. So not only was I able to help them ship smarter, I doubled my profit at the same time. All because I listened to where they wanted things to change, where they felt I can fit. And I looked at it and said, I can fit into that strategy. So by using these 3 basic things that I just talked to you about, 1, you'll need them to bring their goals. So they brought the goals. 2, you figure out what needs to be changed or moved to fit into this, to fit it. And 3, how do you fit in? Right? So all of those allowed me to create this process for this customer. Now, some customers were like, no, I don't want you to change the way I ship. We just got to figure out how to ship smarter. Another customer of mine said that, I don't want you to change it. We just got to figure out how to ship smarter. So what did I do? I did what probably all of you would do. I looked at all of their LTL shipping. I divided it by the piece count and realized that 11 pallets was their sweet spot. That was the sweet spot for them to ship. So what we did is we created a process where we would take 2 days more to ship, but they would have 11 pallets ready once a week. So I moved from 6 pallets and 3 pallets or 6 pallets and 1 pallet twice a week to 1 shipment a week. Allowed me to better create my consolidation division and my consolidation in the area where they were picking up, because I knew every week I had 12 pallets. So it's a pretty good start to consolidation. So that's another route that you can take in that long-term client attainment, okay? So number 2, you've got those 3 together, and now we move into this second part. If you've already had one of these calls, what you're going to want to do is you want to come with the data over the last quarter. So you're going to kind of split that client retention call into two parts. One part is a quick review, and I'm talking 3-4 minutes. Like, do not go death by PowerPoint on this or any of that crap. Keep them engaged. You have 3 to 5 minutes of a review. Here's what you wanted for the quarter. Here's what we did. Here's how we did it. Here's the results. End of story. Okay? That's when you have that conversation. So this is like your second, third, fourth conversation. When you're in these conversations, remember one thing. Your client is Luke Skywalker and you're Yoda.
Master Yoda.
Young Skywalker.
I'm ending all of this. The tree, the text, the Jedi. I'm gonna burn it down.
Skywalker, Mr. Arrive.
Now, some of you might say, yeah, but Dan, shouldn't we always have the client as the rock star? And they are. See, Luke Skywalker would have never defeated Darth Vader if Yoda hadn't helped him. But Yoda never took credit. Luke took all the credit. So your customers can't necessarily reach their goals unless you're part of it. But it's not, I did this, you did this, you did this. So again, you are Yoda. Your customer is Luke Skywalker. Your customer gets all the credit. You're in the background. It's just the way it works. And it's the best way because you want your customer to walk into his company with an elevated status. And when he's able to walk in his company with an elevated status because of you, you become their best friend. So just understand that. Since almost every customer is going to have different needs, different desires, different answers, I can't really help you with formulating those answers. Now, if you go to my resource hub, there's dozens of questions to ask where you can simply highlight, even take the page, it's in PDF. You can delete things. You can do whatever you want to do. That's in the resource hub. Again, that's down below. So if you just subscribe today and you go down below, you sign up for the resource hub, it's free. You get all the details, all the different cool things that we have with our videos. But what I really want to express in this piece of it is the fact that not everything is black and white. So even though I share, these ideas, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What are we improving on? And I make it sound like you can fix these. Sometimes these fixes are like 2 months long, right? So just understand that and separate those conversations accordingly. So if you're having a review conversation on the quarter, making sure you're still making decisions based on your customers' goals for the next quarter, but yet you also have a conversation in the mix because you're trying to help repair something or a challenge that your customers brought to your attention. Those are two separate conversations, and try not to mix the two because you do not want any negative feelings about challenges you're going through in these quarter conversations, because the goal is to say, what is your goals? What is your KPIs? What's your mandates? And how can I help you get there? So the beautiful thing is once you have this information, this is a piece of information that you can now share with your suppliers. So hopefully you're not in the spot market, and hopefully you're dealing with certain suppliers over and over and over again. And you can actually sit down with them and say, here's the goals for my customers. So say, for example, you go back to the 4% a year rate decrease. You go back to your customer and you sit down, or your carrier, and you sit down and you say, listen, here's the situation. My customer is looking for, 4% off for the next year. What do you need in order for us to possibly meet this? Is it even feasible? If it is, what are some of the criteria we need to hit? And that's where the negotiation and conversation and the back and forth and the longevity comes from, because there's no secrecy. You're not trying to shave 4% off your carrier. You're saying, like, listen, here's the situation, what my customer is trying to do. How can we be a part of this solution instead of a part of the problem? Makes sense. Think of it like this. The nucleus of this strategy is to figure out what puzzle your customer is building and how you can inject yourself into that puzzle to complete the picture. It's fairly simple. Can you inject yourself in any which way, shape, or form to complete this picture for them so your customer gets the credit, but internally with you and your customer, you get the credit as well? That's key. You'll find that this could be one of the most important brainstorming sessions you will ever have with your customer, because once you start that collaborative feeling and everybody gets collaborative, you can really expand. And not only that, it'll give you an opportunity to say to your customer, hey, I want to try this. Do you trust me enough to try it? Will you give me free reign to try it? It might fail, but we got to try it. Like if we keep doing the same thing over and over and over, we can't expect different results. So how can we get different results for what we're doing? We need to try things differently. Will you be with, and that way you've got the buy-in from the customer on that support. So that's critical. And there's one thing that I really want you to ask yourself at the end of this. So once you create this new proposal, if you will, or this new process that you're going to go in and you're going to say, I'm going to nail it. I got everything I need to go. I'm going to get this customer this goal. Stop and ask yourself, how will this strategy truly help my customer? Can I do more? And I want you to take commissions out of the equation for a moment. And I know a lot of you are probably sitting there going, yeah, but Dan, I'm so busy. It's fine. But how do you up that level of value? How do you amplify everything you're doing? And you know what? I'll be creating a video. Let me know in the comments if you're interested, actually. I'll be creating a video about this on how we elevate our clients' lives and different strategies and tools and stuff we could use to do that. I also have another video coming out very soon about all the tools I use in my day-to-day life to help my workflow become easier. So ask yourself those questions, sit down, go through this, head over to the resource hub at dangegan.com/resource and get a resource hub and get those resources. It's free. It gives you so many different tools. There's produce schedules there and everything. So anything that you need in the logistics world, it's a free membership. We got a great community in there. Go ahead and grab it for yourself. Until next time, my friends, remember, go out there, make every call educational, and crush your sales. Take care.